Picture this, a quiet studio filled with the echoes of a legendary band long gone, and a man who's ready to break his silence. Today, we're diving into the untold story of Rory Gallagher, the guitar genius whose music set the world on fire, but whose life was a storm of brilliance, conflict, and sacrifice. This isn't just another rock star tale, it's a raw human journey. Stick with me until the end, because you won't believe the twists and truths we're about to uncover. Trust me, you'll want to hear every word of this. Let's take you back to the late 1960s, a time when rock and blues were colliding in the most explosive way. Rory Gallagher was the heart of a band called Taste, alongside drummer John Wilson and bassist Richard McCracken. On stage, they were magic raw, gritty, and unstoppable. Their sound was like a lightning bolt, blending soulful blues with the kind of energy that makes crowds lose their minds. But behind the curtain, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Rory was the guy everyone looked to. He wasn't just playing guitar and singing, he was calling the shots. Every set list, every song arrangement, every big decision came down to him. For John Wilson, that started to sting. Imagine pouring your heart into a band, only to feel like your voice doesn't matter. That's where the cracks began to form. Rory wasn't trying to be a bad guy. He was just obsessed with getting it right. Perfection was his thing, and he chased it like nothing else. Is that right? He could push people away. John remembers how Rory's need to control everything down to the smallest details made.
Is Rory Gallagher.
Hi
Rory, welcome to the show. How you doing?
They were supposed to be brothers in music, but more and more it felt like Rory was the boss, and everyone else was just along for the ride. Still, they kept it together for the fans. On stage, you never knew anything was wrong. Their chemistry was electric, and crowds couldn't get enough. But off stage, the tension was building, and it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down fast forward to 1978, the Isle of Wight Festival. For most fans, this was the kind of big drums that made a massive crowd a chance to shine. Taste took the stage and delivered a performance that left everyone speechless. Rory's guitar was like a living thing, screaming and singing. Every note. The audience was in awe. But backstage, things were falling apart. John Wilson recalls that night as a turning point. After the show, Rory dropped a bomb. He was done with Taste. No discussion, no warning, just a decision that changed everything. For John, it wasn't just about losing the band. It was about losing a friend. Rory had made up his mind without even talking to the guys who'd been by his side. That betrayal cut deep, and it's a wound that still lingers for John always. Years later, so, Taste was over, and Rory Gallagher went solo. If you thought that was the end of the drama, think again. His solo career is where things really get wild. Rory wasn't just a guitarist, he was a force of nature. Albums like Tattoo and Irish Tour 74 showed the world what he was capable of. Oh, his guitar playing wasn't just skillful. It was emotional, like he was pouring his soul into every note. Fans loved him for it. He wasn't chasing fame or flashing lights like other rock stars. He was all about the music, and that made him a hero to so many, but there was a
You've
catch.
just finished an Irish tour.
That
Have you
same
been pleased with the response
perfectionism
that you've
drove him to
had?
greatness,
Oh yeah, it was great.
It made
Very
working with him
exciting.
tough. Really tough taught Rory expected the best, not just from himself, but from everyone around him. Rehearsals could go on for hours, sometimes all night, as he hunted for the perfect sound. When it wasn't right, he'd keep going until it was. For some musicians, that was inspiring. For others, it was exhausting. Bandmates came and went, unable to keep up with Rory's intensity. He wasn't mean or cruel, he just couldn't settle for anything less than perfect. That relentless drive earned him respect, but it also left him lonely. The guy who could light up a stage often found himself standing alone when the lights went down. It's heartbreaking to think about, isn't it? A man so full of passion, yet so isolated by his own standards. But it wasn't just his bandmates. He felt the heat. Rory had a bone to pick with the music industry itself. To him, the industry was a machine that cared more about money than art. He hated the idea of selling out, of turning his music into something fake just to climb the charts. In the 1970s, when rock was all about big hair and bigger egos, Rory stayed true to himself. He didn't care about trends or gimmicks. He just wanted to play his music his way. That made him a rebel in the best possible way, but it also made things harder for him. Record labels wanted him to play the game, to make hits that would sell. Millions, Rory wasn't having it. He'd rather play a small club and keep his integrity than sell out for a stadium. One of the craziest moments in Rory. His career came in 1974. The Rolling Stones, the Rolling Stones came knocking. They needed a new guitarist after Mick Taylor left, and they wanted Rory. For most musicians, this would have been a no-brainer. Join one of the biggest bands in the world, sign up. But not Rory, he turned them down flat. Why? Because he didn't vibe with their over-the-top image. He didn't want to be part of something that felt fake to him. Can you imagine the guts of practicing life? That decision felt everything. But it was classic Rory. He wasn't about fame or fortune, he was about staying true to who he was. Even if it meant missing out on the spotlight, that choice defined him, but it came at a cost. While other rock stars were selling out arenas, Rory was playing smaller venues. He could have been a household name, but his refusal to play by the industry's rules kept him on the edges of mainstream success. His fans that only made him more legendary. They saw him as a guy who stood up for what he believed in, no matter what. But for Rory, it wasn't always easy. Deep down, he knew his music wasn't getting the reach it deserved. The industry's focus on image over substance frustrated him, and that frustration started to weigh heavier as the years rolled out now. Let's talk about Rory the person, not just the musician. To his fans, he was this humble, down-to-earth guy who let his guitar do the talking. He didn't act like a rock star, even though he had the talent to back it up. But to the people who knew him best, Rory was a puzzle. On stage, he was unstoppable. Off stage, he was quiet, almost shy. He didn't do well in big social scenes. You'd think a guy who could command thousands of fans would be the life of the party, but Rory was the opposite. He'd often slip away from gatherings like he didn't quite know how to fit in. It's such a stark contrast, and it makes you wonder what was going on inside his head. That's where things start to get heavy. Rory's life was a constant whirling of touring. Night after night, talking about how he played like his life depended on it. But that kind of intensity takes a toll. Rory didn't have a home base, no real roots to ground him. He was always on the move, always chasing the next show. While other rock stars were living it up with fancy houses and life was simpler. His guitar was his home, his music his refuge. But even that couldn't protect him from the loneliness that started creeping the daw as time went on. Rory turned to alcohol to cope. At first, it was just a way to unwind after a long show or to connect with other musicians on the road. But slowly, it became more than that. It was a crutch. It amplified the noise in his head, the pressure, the expectations, the exhaustion. By the 1980s, people close to him started to notice a change. The Rory they knew, the one with endless energy and power, was starting to fade. He looked tired, weighed down by something deeper than just the road. His drinking wasn't just a habit. Anymore, it was taking over. Friends and family saw it, but Rory wasn't the kind of guy who'd ask for help. He carried his struggles in silence, just like he carried everything else. One of the most important people in Rory's life was his brother, Donald. Donald wasn't just family, he was Rory's manager, his protector, his biggest supporter. He fought hard to keep Rory's music pure, to shield him from the parts of the industry that wanted to change him. But being both a brother and a manager wasn't easy. There were times when their relationship got messy. The line between family and business blurred, and that caused tension. Donald could see Rory's health slipping, but Rory didn't want to hear it. He was stubborn, always pushing forward, even when it was clear he needed a break. For Donald, it was like watching someone you love run toward a cliff and not being able to stop themselves at their movement. Rory's health was a real concern. The drinking, the non-stop touring, the stress, it was all catching up to him. The man who once seemed invincible was starting to weaken. His shows were still incredible, but you could see the strain. His energy wasn't the same, and there was a sadness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Donald tried to get him to slow down, to take care of himself, but Rory wouldn't listen. Music was his life, and he couldn't imagine stepping away from it, even for a moment. That dedication was what made him so special, but it was also what was tearing him apart.
Irish artist of international caliber next
to. Music he made, it's about the battles he fought, both with the world and with himself. His guitar was his voice, his way of expressing everything he couldn't say out loud. Every blistering solo, every haunting melody was a piece of his soul. Musicians like Eric Clapton and Slash looked up to him, not just for his talent, but for his honesty. Rory didn't care about awards or magazine covers. He cared about the music, about connecting with the people who heard it. That's why his fans loved him so much. To them, he wasn't just a rock star, he was one of them, but that connection came at a price. Rory gave everything to his art, and it left him with little for himself. He never married, never settled down. His life was the road, the stage, the music. And while that made for some of the most unforgettable performances in rock history, it also meant Rory was alone in a way most people can't imagine. The same drive that pushed him to create masterpieces like Irish Tour 74 was the same drive that kept him from finding peace. It's a paradox that defines his legacy, a man who gave the world so much beauty, but couldn't escape his own shadows. John Wilson's reflections give us a glimpse into that paradox. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He loved Rory, but he's honest about the challenges of working with him. Rory's need for perfection could be inspiring, but it could also be suffocating. For John, the end of Taste wasn't just the end of a band, it was the end of a dream. He felt pushed aside, like his contributions didn't matter. And yet, even now, he talks about Rory with a mix of admiration and sadness. It's clear that Rory's genius left a mark on everyone who knew him, even if it came with pain. Rory Gallagher's music lives on, and that's what keeps his story alive. Albums like Tattoo and Irish Tour 74 aren't just records, they're time capsules of a man who poured everything into his craft. His guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was an extension of who he was. Every note he played was a piece of his heart, his pain, his joy. That's why his music still resonates today. It's real, raw, and human. Whether you're a lifelong fan or just discovering him, you can hear the truth in every song. That's the magic of Rory Gallagher. But his story is also a reminder that even the brightest stars have their struggles. Rory's life was full of triumphs, moments that changed music forever. But it was also full of sacrifices, things he gave up to chase his vision. He fought the industry, fought his bandmates, fought himself, all in the name of something bigger than fame. His legacy is a mix of inspiration and caution, a tale of what happens when you give everything to your art. It's a story that makes you want to cheer for him, cry for him, and most of all, listen to his music with fresh ears. So, what's the takeaway from Rory Gallagher's life? It's not just about the guitar solos or the sold-out shows. It's about the cost of greatness, the price of staying true to yourself in a world that wants you to be someone else. Rory's music is timeless because it came from a place of honesty. But his life shows us that honesty comes with a weight. He was a hero to his fans, a challenge to his bandmates, and a mystery to himself. And that's what makes his story so powerful. It's not just about what he achieved. It's about what he went through to get there. If Rory's story hit you as hard as it hit me, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who loves music, someone who needs to hear about a guy who never gave up, no matter what. And if you want to dive deeper into stories like this, tales of passion, struggle, and triumph, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Let's keep these legends alive together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.